Okay, hey, Ryan here with James for the weekly mortgage update at Bond Street Mortgage. And James, we'll jump right into the topic today, how to buy your landlord's house. We're getting this question here and there, right?
Absolutely.
So, so basically, this is geared toward renters. If you're watching this, you know somebody who's a renter right now and likes the house they live in and they've thought about buying it, maybe forward this video onto them. And I'll let you go, James, and talk about the topic at hand.
Yeah, especially, I mean, today, obviously, since the financial crisis, a lot of people, thought about just, hey, I'm going to rent, to heck with buying a home because the value is going to go down. And I know a lot of people that got hurt in buying their homes in 2005, 2006. I'm just going to pay my $3,000 a month in rent and be happy with that. But obviously, we've talked about it before, and I continue to say it. I believe residential real estate is back. And if you look at the programs out there that are available for first-time home buyers, but also there's programs that, as long as you don't own a home currently, afford you first-time home buyer type programs as well. For example, if you look at the Home Possible program, which is backed by Freddie Mac, you can put as little as 3% down, and you can get a advantage on the mortgage insurance as compared to maybe going into a government loan, which is a little bit more expensive when we talk about things like APR. A Home Possible with, just using an example, $400,000 purchase, 3% down, a mortgage of $388. Your interest rate today with good credit is going to be somewhere around 4%. If we taxes of $10,000 a year and home insurance, $1,200 a year, with the mortgage insurance on a $388,000 mortgage, your payment's going to be a hair under $3,000 a month. Obviously, depending on the market areas in which you live, that's very relative to our market area here. If you're renting a home of that value, your rent is probably around $3,000 a month. So, you're putting that money into your landlord's pocket. And for our other friends around the country, obviously that ratio to rental to home value will always correlate, and it's going to be the same thing. And if you have money in your 401k, or you see this week stock market again broke through 22,000 on the Dow Jones, NASDAQ, S&P, all at record highs. Your 401k is a great asset today to leverage, to borrow money from yourself for down payment. And if you're making, if you have a $3,000 a month payment, you do need combined incomes roughly somewhere around $10,000 a month. You're going to have considerable tax benefit by having that interest. Also an appreciating asset in the value of the home.
Right. So appreciation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this formula has worked since the beginning of time when it came to owning homes and creating wealth. Again, obviously, you have to take the financial crisis out of the equation, but I've said it before, from 1960 to 2006, national average real estate in this country returned 6 to 8%. You are helping somebody else get rich by continuing to make that rent payment. And you really need to look at that and say, you can look at the demographics, all of the social studies that have been done on home ownership, what it does to future generations of the family. It's all positive, and I think that we need to start thinking that way more again about owning our homes compared to what the last 10 years have looked like. And the smart money, the institutional money, always moves ahead of the curve, and they've been buying up residential real estate for the last 3-4 years now, and all the real estate professionals, Ryan, like yourself, that know the industry, everyone I talk to is there's no inventory. It is a seller's market this year for that reason, and I believe that's the foundation for years to come in this industry, and I think we're in a good spot.
Yep. So next question. Somebody who's renting a house right now, they might be wondering, well, I don't know if my landlord wants to sell, but there are plenty of advantages on both sides. If you do ask your landlord, he said he wants to sell, he's going to save the commission, or she's going to save the commission to an agent. So on a $400,000 house, that could be $24,000 at 6%.
That's right.
Right. So your landlord, if you approached if you approach your landlord and said, "Hey, we actually like staying here. We don't want to move," he might look at that and say, "Wow, this makes life easy on me."
Yeah, like you said, I mean, if they're early on and they're thinking to sell, and the realtor's showing up to show the house, and you like the house you live in, it's absolutely a conversation that should take place. And the benefits, like you're saying, the benefits to buying are there, and the capacity to get it done is really there today from a lending side more so than ever before.
Right. You save hassle of looking for a house. Can we talk a little bit, because you'll know, can people use their rent payments as a way to help qualify for the mortgage? Is that a thing?
In certain instances they can. What that does help is if you do have to utilize, let's say, an FHA program, which is a government-backed program at 3.5% down, still talking about the same numbers. If your debt to income is a little bit elevated because you're self-employed, so your cash flow, or at least the way that the traditional way of looking at income, your debt to income is elevated, or quite frankly, maybe you owned a house 10 years ago and you had a credit event, and so that mortgage was in your spouse's name. Now everything is gone, but they're still within the threshold of not qualifying for a new loan. So there's additional household income that's not accounted for in the loan. That's also a compensating factor. So if your new mortgage payment is going to, and we need it as a compensating factor, and we can demonstrate that your rent payment has been similar to the new mortgage payment, and you've been making that rent payment on time for 12 months, that is a compensating factor.
Okay.
Will afford you a little bit higher, debt to income ratio, because you can show that you've maintained that payment.
Right. So rental payment history. What about cases where a landlord has agreed that if you buy the house, like in a lease option, that they'll credit a part of your rental payment when you buy it?
Yeah, so that has to be part of your original lease agreement. That does so that document can be provided to demonstrate what the agreement is. So typically, for example, if you're paying $1,500 a month in rent, you agree to $2,000 a month in rent, with that $500 a month going towards down payment when the seller would be willing to sell the property back to you. And then we can show that agreement, show the history of the payments, and there's your down payment. We can use that as the down payment money towards the down payment.
Very cool. And if somebody is renting now and they talk to their landlord about maybe buying the house in the next year or two, could they do a new lease agreement that kind of spells out those terms, and they can start fresh today?
Once you start making that lease to purchase type payment, get it in writing starting that month, and then you can show it. And it's kind of like the old, my mom and dad are, blue collar, worked in factories, and they had, I remember my mom would always, throw a little extra in that Christmas book, every year. So she'd have money for Christmas gifts. It's kind of the same thing. You're giving your landlord a little bit extra every month, so you're not really feeling it. But in a year, $500 a month is $6,000. That's in that $400 scenario we talked about. That's half the down payment.
Yeah, so you could, if you like the house, the landlord might want to sell. You just ask him for a 3-year option or something.
Exactly. And then when he's ready, you're going to benefit from getting it first, not dealing with the realtors. And obviously, realtors are there to do their job, which they do well, and that's listing and making sure that the seller's happy with the price. But obviously, you could do a for sale by owner, which will help you get a better overall price as well. Like you said, like you mentioned earlier, and so that's it's a great way for a renter, like you said, to really speak to their landlord and get the inside scoop on buying a home if that's what they really wanted to do longer term.
Yeah, you might find you get a better price than what your landlord would have put it on the market for. So
sure. Yeah.
Especially if you have a relationship with the landlord, he likes you, you've been a good tenant, they're probably gonna be more likely to work with you than some strange buyer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's that. It's possible to buy your landlord's house. If you're thinking about it, call James or somebody on the Bond Street team with any questions you might have. Realtors can be helpful here. A good realtor will answer these questions. They might even get involved as a transaction licensee if you want to have a little bit more professional assistance along the way. Agents can do that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. They can definitely help you as a buyer representing your interests in the transaction. It doesn't have to be that the seller is the one that the listing goes with, and they can help with, like you said, the nuances of negotiating a real estate deal as well. And if you're willing to, you can pay some really good buyer's agents to help you with that process. It's definitely a great idea as well.
Yeah. Enlist a buyer's agent, sign a buyer's agency agreement. You can make it exclusive to the property you're trying to buy, even, so it's not, you're not locked in. So there you go. Not a bad idea. I know a lot of people don't consider this. They say, hey, I'm going to go out and find a house now. They don't even think about the one they're in. And you're also going to save moving costs. Right?
Yeah.
So, okay. Let's jump over to rates now, James. What's going on out there?
Rates are kind of holding steady. I mean, you had a jobs number that was a little bit better than expected this morning. So I think we added 200,000 plus jobs. They were estimating somewhere, I think, in the 160 to 170 range. Definitely had a pop in rates this morning. They've kind of leveled off, and it's more of the same, Ryan. Some numbers are good. Manufacturing numbers were a little bit weak on earlier in the week. The jobs number was a little bit better than expected here today. So it's just more of a mixed bag of economic news. The trend is positive. I think wages were up a little bit better than expected. Consumers still there, but being frugal, which I like. I agree with that. You don't have to overspend. Spend where you need, and you should have some discretionary spending as well to have some fun and family vacations and things like that. But I still go back to, we learned our lesson from the financial crisis, and the leverage is out. So in the economy, and I was actually having this discussion this morning with someone, because Alan Greenspan, the former chair of the Federal Reserve, he's been in the news this week. Earlier this week, I read an article that was written in Bloomberg that said he believes there's a bubble in the bond market, which obviously dictates mortgage rates. And this morning, I think he was on CNBC basically saying the same thing. But obviously, one of the geniuses of our time and a great economic leader, but you could make the argument that, he was at the helm during the dot-com crisis and the housing crisis. They were late to the game on both of those.
Yeah, you didn't see either of those.
So he was the chair at the time. Sometimes, trying to be the best leader I can be. I know sometimes I make mistakes too and have to be accountable for them. And really what, they don't account for, what I think has changed the game is, the Amazons of the world and the Walmarts of the world, because they look at, obviously, the cost of goods, and especially food, that's a big driver of inflation numbers in this country. And the Amazon effect and the Walmart effect, we cannot discount that. And the Fed models really don't make up for it. They'll obviously, look at it from a roundtable standpoint, but he says there's a bubble in bonds. You can say there's a bubble in the stock market too. We're at all-time highs. I don't know. If everything is bubbling up, why is that happening? And I don't see a bubble because, and I'm definitely a lot dumber than Alan Greenspan, but I don't see the leverage that was there. Like I said, the consumer is not spending like they were, not even close. Even in our business, right? You can get a loan with 3% down, but you got to show income. There's there's none of these quirky, exotic mortgage products out there that will allow prices to go up too high. Yes, there's an inventory shortage, which makes it a seller's market, but the cost of funds remains low. So, it's kind of balanced. And, I just see the more of that. I don't see, other than, again, if we do get some tax reform, which we heard that obviously with the new administration, we're going to be in 2018 pretty soon, and nothing has been done. So, there are some catalysts that can spur growth. GDP for the second quarter, the first reading was at 2.6. I mean, that's a real nice number. I don't think we have to grow more than 3% to really be in a nice spot. Otherwise, then you do start seeing a lot of leverage and things overheating a bit. So I just see more of the same. If that's been the range, we've been in the low 4s to the mid 4s, dipped into the 3s, and that's kind of been this range from 3.75 to 4.5 on rates all year. And I just see more of that. And quite frankly, if things on the economic front kind of cool off here a little bit, you might even be lower by the end of the year.
Cool. Okay. And then I had something on the agent side of things. For any agents watching, we're playing around. This is just a concept. I'm trying to bring up the link here. The concept is something near and dear to your heart, James, is where you generate a real estate lead, but you can get your mortgage lender involved, somebody like Bond Street. And it's a big thing in the industry now where you try to share leads in a RESPA compliant way.
Right.
That flow. I shouldn't say share leads, but work leads together, co-market, whatever you want to call it. And I had a link to show everybody. I think I showed you this. One second here. Taking longer for me to get than I would like. But this link, here we go, ta-da. All right, I was doing it by other monitor. So James, this is an after opt-in splash page. So you would run a link, you would run an ad for, say, a list of new construction properties or something like that. And then you're the agent, you're running this list. Somebody opts in for the new construction list. And then right after they opt in, they see this, you're gonna send them an email with the list, but it's gonna go into the message that one of the first important steps in the home buying process is to get pre-approved for a mortgage. This would have a little bit of your info on it as the mortgage lender, you know, NMLS number and all that stuff for compliance. And then click the button to answer a few questions. This takes them into a light, quick form with some contact info, and then continues on into the long form 1003 that we've used in other cases. So just a thought, if you're working with James, if you're working with Bond Street or even another lender, just a strategy or technique that you'd want to implement. Obviously, if you go to James's crew, I can help set this all up.
Yeah, yeah, definitely we can help set it up, and that really, you know, in our conversations, obviously at length, Ryan, and even conversation with agents, you know, the idea is that we want to invest together, we want to build our brand together, our businesses together. Obviously, from a compliance standpoint, we have to do that in the context of promoting our services to the public, but obviously giving them choices. And, you know, with everything that I've been reading and seeing, I think we have found the answer. I get it. You know, if we're co-marketing and we're driving, data to real estate listings, obviously somebody may want to look at a property before they're talking to us for a mortgage. And not only that, we really have to invite them to want to talk to us for a mortgage. It cannot be a situation where we're just getting data because we're co-marketing without the person opting in. So these type of things that you've developed for us have been working great because, hey, that's all we want to do is we want to talk to the people that would like to give us at least the opportunity of talking to us. We're not here to bother anybody. We're just trying to earn some business. And so if you're serious, and, you know, typically we've gotten a great response off of this type of stuff. It's compliant. I love it. And, you know, it makes the agent look good too, because it's not like, hey, you know, why am I getting a call from someone that didn't ask for it? You know, you could kind of turn people off that way too. So
yeah,
it works.
Yeah, this is 100% voluntary.
Exactly.
So if you generate, say, 100 new construction list leads, you might expect to get 10 or 20 to fill this out, but both sides of the table are happy. You're only getting the motivated people as the mortgage lender. The
exactly.
Explicitly opting in, and the agent is getting that extra level of lead follow-up from the more serious people.
Yep, absolutely. Like you
Cool.
said, help tailor the campaigns, and we have some great opportunities. So yeah, just give us a buzz.
Yeah. Contact Shane, James. I'm sure people watching this know who the guys are to contact at Bond. Okay. All right. Well, thanks, James. I think we covered a lot today. We'll get this recording live as soon as possible and be back sometime soon with another one of these.
All right. Thanks. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.
Bye.